And now please give a virtual welcome to Claus Raasted, who's going to be speaking on storytelling. Claus.
Thank you. Is my screen shared? Do you see this?
Yep, there we go.
There it is.
Yep, you're all set.
Hello, everyone. Let me tell you a story. It's the story about this guy, a sad man lost in the desert. No education, no stable job, 700,000 euros in personal debt, living in a rented home, and divorced. All of this is true. Now, what if I told you a different story about the director of the College of Extraordinary Experiences, a coach at McKinsey, one of the founding partners at the Global Institute for Thought Leadership, just came out with his book number 30, and even has a stake in a professional ruby hunting operation in Greenland. Now, even though I'm divorced, actually happily divorced, if that's possible, I have a small and loving family, lying down as Sue and sitting with the iPad as Saga. And when it comes to using pictures of my daughter in presentations, I have zero shame. All of this is true as well, especially the last part. But here's a third version.
Working with Claus is unlike anything that I have ever experienced or that anyone will ever experience.
Working with Claus is like opening doors up to a new dimension.
What Claus does is expand people's minds to be more adaptable and elastic. And the outcomes you get from that are really spectacular.
You can take something that can be really boring and corporate and honestly just stale, and Claus has an ability to breathe life into a project and to help you see things from a different perspective where otherwise you would never get there.
Everything is fast, everything is connected, everything is possible. Things you couldn't dream of before is suddenly doable.
He has this remarkable capacity to both completely command the attention of the room when needed, while simultaneously giving space for others to collaborate and contribute.
His energy is contagious. He has a way with people and being able to bring an energy into a room unlike anyone that I have ever encountered. And I've encountered a lot of people professionally throughout the world.
Working with Claus, you have to handle with care and brace for impact.
And you're at a rock concert, and you're going to go absolutely fucking crazy when we get on stage. Can you do that?
Stories can be told in many ways. Personally, though the first one is true, it's not the one I tell at the beginning, but it's part of me as well. Because the underlying reality is the same. Why do stories matter? Well, they matter because our brains are wired for story. In fact, we're really not that good as humans at things like facts and numbers and that sort of thing. We pride ourselves on our intellectual capacity, but in the words of Daniel Kahneman, the mind, or kind of the brain, thinks it's the West Wing of the White House making all the decisions. But in reality, it's more like the press office. We have all these hardwired impulses that control what we do, and then we spend most of our time justifying it. However, stories connect with us. If we connect with a story, if we feel engaged by a story, not only do we remember things better, it actually rewires our brains on a neurological level. And there's a reason that most rules and most societal norms in ancient times were told as stories. People weren't given bullet points on how to act. They were told legends and myths about how to behave. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, what about the 10 Commandments? That's pretty much a bullet point list. I think we can discuss another time how successful that has been and how many people actually remember all 10 bullet points. It's a lot cooler remembering the story of Gilgamesh. Stories rewire our brains. Critical. A powerful example is this. Frances Garrity. Let's talk about her for a moment. Some of you will recognize this. It's from 1947. All of you will probably recognize this. It's from the De Beers Diamond Company. A diamond is forever. Now, in 1940, 10% of American engagement rings were diamond rings. Why? According to Frances Garrity, we'll talk about who she is in a moment, women wanted their men to spend money on a washing machine or a new car, anything but an engagement ring. By 1990, that number had risen to 80%. Part of it is because of this: a diamond is forever. The slogan coined by the very same Frances Garrity, who was an advertising copywriter working for De Beers, or at least for the company that worked for De Beers, if we're going to be technical about it. And that slogan, combined with the fact of getting Hollywood stars to wear engagement rings, getting engagement rings into movies, made people believe that engagement rings were the thing to do. They even had this beautiful story dating back to a European duke in the 15th century. And everybody knows if you can trace that, then you're doing something well. De Beers did another thing, which is beautiful and terrible. Before the 1980s, if you wanted to know how expensive should that diamond engagement ring, well, the rough answer was usually 1 month's salary. What did they do then? They did this. How can you make 2 months' salary last forever? A brilliant stroke of marketing. They basically said, you should pay more. You should buy a more expensive product. We're not raising the price. We're just saying you should step up your game in which product you buy. Stories change the world. And right now, we need new stories because I don't have to tell you what the world looks like right now. It looks terrible. We need global stories. We need innovation stories. We need change stories. And most of all, we need human stories. You might be asking yourself, is this a particular human story image? It's buildings, right? Well, if you look at it like this, it's very much a human story. The problem isn't that we don't know how. It's that we're too afraid to try. And our solutions are 2x, not 20x. This is hospitality. And hospitality tomorrow doesn't need 2x solutions. It needs 20x. Let me give you a couple of examples, because small ideas are not enough. This is something I found while doing a little bit of research before this talk. What's actually cooking in the world of hospitality? Now, those of you who are reading have already gotten to it. Inventing FAQ bots to answer customers' COVID-19 related questions. It's a nice idea. It's a good one. It's not a big one. Creating mobile room keys so guests check in through an app instead of using a key card. Again, it's nice. I'd love to do that as a guest. A big idea? Not really. My personal favorite, free Wi-Fi in hotel rooms. Nope, that's it. That's the idea. We're going to change the world of hospitality by providing free Wi-Fi in hotel rooms. We should dream big, and we should remember that everything we have, from running water to democracy to airplanes to frequent flyer miles to even hotels, started with somebody saying, what if? And somebody else saying it's never going to happen. Everything started with no. The car wouldn't catch on. People didn't like the noise. It was too slow. There were people who predicted, oh, it's a fad. It's not going to happen. It's never going anywhere. The personal computer, yeah, let's just say that that one took off as well. And one of my favorites is this. In 1927, when the first talkie movie, The Jazz Singer, came out, there were Hollywood bigwigs who said, who wants people to talk on screen? That's never going to catch on. I think history has shown them otherwise. But it's also things like Bitcoin. Though nobody might understand it, we're still in a world where people said, oh, it's now risen to $100 per coin. It'll never go further. 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. And every time there's a world full of pundits saying, well, now it's reached its ceiling. And when it dives back again, they're saying, see, we were right. Except now Bitcoin hasn't dipped below the thousands for quite a while. And all the people who said it would stop at 100, well, they were wrong. The United Nations, the first time it was tried, it was called the League of Nations. Didn't go over too well, but now it's part of our lives. The idea that a company can be managed by small, self-controlling circles, the idea of the holacracy, is radical, but it might just work, and it does in places. We need to look to the people who dare to dream big. We need to look to people like Edison, who's famous for failing and failing and failing again, and then changing the world. To people like Virginia Apgar, who realized, oh, you can actually do a short and very effective test that reduces child mortality by looking at a couple of things. It's called the Apgar score. Look it up. Very interesting. And Walt Disney, who got rejected 300 times for Disneyland. I think it's fair to say that Disney is one of the most successful companies in the world, so much that my voice almost dramatically broke pronouncing it. Not because it was that emotional, just because I didn't control my voice rhythm. But Disney was rejected and rejected and rejected again. And when he finally became successful, he raised the bar and was rejected once again. You should also listen to this young woman. Well, okay, let's be fair. Right now, you should not listen to her. You should also not question why there's one kind of tail wing missing on the plane and it has no engines. This is Saga. But at some point, she's going to get to the point where you should listen to her. And you should especially listen to those who are not that much older than her, because they have answers and insights that we don't. We need to look beyond the tried and tested. We need to look to sci-fi writers, to theater directors, to teachers, to guerrilla marketers, to gamers, to poets, to magicians, YouTubers, historians, actors, crypto-anarchists. Children have been mentioned, and storytellers, which all of these people are in one way or another. Disney just laid off 28,000 people. Now, I know some of them worked in janitorial worlds or in administration, but a lot of them worked with stories. I don't know how many of you have been out recruiting desperate Disney talent to help you change the world. I'd go for that if I was you. Because we need to dare to tell those big stories. Unless, of course, you prefer this one. Winston Churchill said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Right now, we have a crisis. A crisis. It was my dramatic ending. Right now, we have a crisis. Don't let it go to waste. Thank you.